So good day. We're learning a new chapter today. It's Igeres HaKodesh in the fourth section of Tanya called Sacred Letters, page Kuf Lamed Gimel. It's letter 21, Chaf Aleph. Achar Drisha Sholem. That's an acronym for Achar Drishas Sholem. After receiving regards, okay? Drishas literally means to be dorish, to request shalom, peace. So simple English, it means after receiving your regards, or could mean after I'm seeking your peacefulness. It's an opening to a letter. Kimishpat laove shmoi, like the ruling to those that love his name. Who is called in the Torah the lover of the name of God? Avram, your namesake Avram, is called the lover of Hashem. So the Alter Rebbe addresses his people, his Hasidim, as you'll see soon, with this endearing term. You Hasidim are Oyave Shmoi. You're the lovers of God's name. And it's interesting that he uses this. It's because he's going to talk here about Tzedakah and Chesed, which is the attribute of Avram. So he employs verbiage that denotes love. Oyave Shmoi, the lovers of God's name. Let's continue. El HaMesnadvim Ba'am. And who is this letter written to? To those amongst the nation that are Mesnadvim, that are generous, that donate, from the word Nedava. Lasa Sitkas Hashem, to do the righteousness of Hashem, of God, Im Artzei HaKodesha, with Hashem's holy land, Eretz Yisrael. How do these lovers of God's name do righteousness? Losis midishana b'shana, by giving yearly Choik HaKotzuf Mois Eretz HaKodesh Tizborech V'Sikarev B'Mheira V'Yameinu, by giving yearly a designated amount of money to Eretz Yisrael, in particular to Kolel Chabad, was the Alter Rebbe's fund in Eretz HaKodesh. The same Kolel Chabad that exists today, it's that Kolel Chabad that started roughly 1788. So he's writing this to his Hasidim in Russia, and he calls them lovers of God's name by doing kindness and chesed for the Jews in Eretz Yisrael by giving yearly a certain amount. That's what it says. Aleim Titav, we're on the fourth line, Moshe, on page Kuf Lamed Gimel, Igeres HaKodesh Chaf Aleph. Aleim Titav Milosi, it is upon you, upon them, that my words, Milosi, Titav, should drip. The Tizal Ketal Imrosi, another beautiful phrase, and should drip like dew. What should drip like dew? Imrosi, my saying. And this is a very endearing way with the Abalatanya, the Alter Rebbe talks to his Hasidim. You're all making yearly donations to help the Kolel Chabad for the Jews in Eretz Yisrael, and therefore the words I'm going to address should drip towards you, should impact you. Okay? Lizaris lizrizim. Here you see the word zariz, alacrity. Vilachzik yodam rafais b'matan domim mois Eretz Yisrael. And to support the weak hands in the giving of money to Eretz Yisrael, midas Shabbos b'Shabbatoi, every week. The Alter Rebbe says, fellas, You're doing wonderful that you're giving yearly your donations, but that is not enough. That shows that there's some weakness. Yodim rofes is an expression, weak hands. Why? Because you're not giving weekly. You're only giving yearly. You know, I prepared this letter. It's so real in our life. You come to a person, he says, I made my yearly pledge. Like, you know, the Federation in America, you have your yearly pledge. The Alter Rebbe says, thank you very much. It's not enough. It's not enough, and he's going to suggest another way of giving, which he feels is better. And this is a very important lesson for us today. So he says, the ultimate would be to give each week, Moshe, instead of once a year. The same amount of money. He's not talking about a different amount. You're going to give $100, break it up by weeks, not by the year. Then he says, if that's too much, at least once a month. You can't do it every week. It's too much accounting for you. You're running all over. You're busy. You'll get famished. Then do it at least each chodesh, each month. In other words, take the amount that you designated for the year and divide it by 12 months. That's what he says. And all the money of you holy ones, which ascended on your heart, on the heart of man, referring to his chassidim, lisnadev, b'li neder. When you make a pledge, it needs to be without making a vow, b'li neder. I'm particular, if I'm able to, when I get called to the Torah, and I make a pledge to give tzedakah for the aliyah, I say b'li neder under my own, quietly. Because once you say, I'm giving so-and-so, and you don't say b'li neder in halachic terms, simply speaking, it's a neder, it's a promise, and you're not allowed to break a promise. If you say b'li neder, then it's less of an issue. You shouldn't break your words, because there's another issue called lo yachal dvarei. But the question is whether it's in halachic terms a neder. A pledge is a neder, and a neder is binding. If you say b'li neder, you avoid the binding aspect. Okay, so the Alter Rebbe says, Lefanosis oy achenu yeshvi Igeres HaKodesh, you made a pledge, b'li neder, without taking a vow, to support, to sustain our brothers who sit in Eretz Yisrael midashana b'shana every year. So he says, take that amount of your pledge, of your nedava, and give it at least monthly rather than yearly. That's what he says till now here. Now the question is, Hillel, why? What's the difference between giving $100 once a month, once a year, or giving $100 12 months, 10 months? Seems to be the same.
I have a question before that.
Yes.
Where are we?
Oh, we're on page Kuf Lamed Gimel.
Okay.
Igeres HaKodesh, Chof Aleph, and we are about 7-8 lines down from the beginning, after the period. Kuf Lamed Gimel. But again, my page nation might be different than yours. You have to look for Igeres HaKodesh Chof Aleph. You got that?
Got it.
So go down 6, 7, 8 lines. There's a period. Kihine. Moshe, you have it? Kihine. So now the Alter Rebbe, now the question is, why? Alter Rebbe, why? He's coming up to a new demand. Imagine, you're all in Bet Shemesh, and the Alter Rebbe sends you a letter. You get in the mail a letter, or Shliach comes, and Meshulach comes and says, I have a message from the Alter Rebbe. And he says he thanks you for your yearly donation, but he wants you to give it monthly. He wants you to give it each week. Break it up. Some people will say it's easier once. Most people will say once a year. It's easier. I don't have the mindset to. So the question is, why does he say this? Listen to what he says. In addition to the fact that it's known, the first thing is rizus, alacrity. If you push it off for once a year, then you're missing the aspect of alacrity. You're very, very organized. Once a year I'm going to give in Chodesh Adar. That means what you're doing is you're not doing the mitzvah with rizus. You're doing the mitzvah like a balabas, an accountant. You're very organized, very nice, but the aspect of zrizus is missing. And the Alter Rebbe is now going to teach us that zrizus is an ikar when doing a mitzvah. You hear that? When doing a mitzvah, procrastination is surely not acceptable, but even just in an organized way, if there's no zrizus there, it's lacking something. And how do we know that? Let's continue. Because it's known the Goydel Milas Hazrizah B'chol HaMitzvahs, how important we know about the importance of zrizus when it comes to all mitzvahs. Hanemer v'nishna b'divrei Razal, which is mentioned and repeated in the words of Chazal, L'olam, quote, L'olam yagdim odim l'dvar mitzvah chulu. A person should always precede the mitzvah. In other words, rush to the mitzvah. That's why we get up early in the morning. The meeting starts 7 and you're in shul 6:30. You know, you're always doing zrizus l'chol dvar mitzvah. That's what the Chazal say. Zrizus the Avraham Avinu l'sholem. It was the alacrity of Avraham Avinu. He ha'yimedes lo'ad lonu v'neinu adolim. It, not the act. You hear this, Chaver? Not the act that he brought Yitzchak as a sacrifice, but it was it was how he did it that is the key. Look what he says. He ha'omedes lo'ad lanu u'leveinu. It, the zrizus, the alacrity, stands for us in good instead for us and our children forever. Ki akedah atzma, because the akedah, the binding itself, ein nechsheves kol kach. With the same gadol, it's not considered such a great test. Le'erech milas Avram Avinu Sholem for Avram. You're talking about a heavyweight. Avram Bel, the heavyweight. Hashem says, bring your son. He's ready. You're my God. Makes sense? Doesn't make sense. So for Avram Avinu, the act itself, to listen, is not a big Mesiras Nefesh. That's what he says right here. Let's go further. B'shegam ki hoya Hashem dibra, Hashem spoke to him, kach nos binchas yichida, take your only son. V'harei, the Alter Rebbe says, look at this line, kama v'kama kadoshim, many, many holy people who weren't as holy as Avram. Shemosru nafsham, that we see they had self-sacrifice, they gave away their life, akdus Hashem, for the sanctity of God. Every soldier in Eretz Yisrael that Nebuchadnezzar lost had self-sacrifice for HaKodesh Baruch Hu. Are you going to go say that the soldiers are on a simple level as holy as Avram Avinu? On a simple level, no. You know what I'm saying? But yet, everyone had Mesiras Nefesh. The same Mesiras Nefesh. So if you're talking about, Alter Rebbe's point here is, if you're talking about the act itself of bringing the son, listening to God, it's not the biggest Mesiras Nefesh. It's not the others do it as well. That's what he says here. Rak. So what was Avram's greatness? Why do we talk about Avram? Rak Avram Avinu was Sholem Asa Zois Bezrizus Nifla. He did it with wondrous alacrity, Laharis Simchosoi, because he wanted to show his happiness, and his willingness. Lemalis rotzin koine, to fulfill the will of his creator. Next page. Velasos, page 266. Velasos nachach ruach leyotzrei, and to bring pleasure to his creator. Umemenu lomdu razal, and from Avram, our sages derive lekayim kol mitzvahs bichlal, to fulfill all mitzvahs, generally speaking. Ubefrat ma'aseh tzedakah, and befrat the act of tzedakah, ha'olah kulana, which is above and beyond all mitzvahs, hamagina umatzila, which protects us, b'peirasel be'lamazeh, its fruit are in this life, in this world. Mikok, meaning peronis, from all kinds of punishments, hamasrakshos, that are very difficult and emotional, and all that. Kidechsiv, as it says, utzedakah tatzil mimovis. And Avram emphasized the zrizus. So that's the chiddush. That's what the Alter Rebbe says here. Moshe, this is unbelievable words. The chiddush of Avraham Avinu is not the act, it's the way he did the act, with joy. In other words, he could have brought his son Yitzchak as a carbon, right? God says, bring him, the Akedah. But he does it, but he's crying his eyes out. And he doesn't, you know, when you have to go to a court case, you have to go here, you have to go there, and you don't like, you schlep your feet, and you find excuses, and you wake up late, and you try whatever. Mentally, it's like, I don't want to do this. Avram should have done that with Yitzchak. Binchas yichidcha. He's going to do it. I'm going to bring him at the end to the binding. But I'm going to drag my feet. No. He gets up early. Vayashkim Avram b'boker. As though he's doing, it's the happiest things in his life. That's the chiddush. So the Alter Rebbe says that the idea of zrizus, the idea of tzedakah, which is tzedakah tatzil mamavis, right? Tzedakah saves us from death. Tzedakah protects us. All the virtues that Chazal say about tzedakah, it's all epitomized through zrizus and giving tzedakah. And that's why it says, I want you to give weekly, if not weekly, monthly, because that shows that you're eager. You're eager, not like it's a weight. It's weighing on you, and you know you have to do it because you have to give your participation to the poor people in Eretz Yisrael. So you put it into the budget, but you'd rather not. And even if you do, but it's like, you know, with a kalkite, we say, with a, with a coldness, with an apathy. Says the Alter Rebbe zrizus. So that's his explanation. His first. There's 3 points over here. But that's his first explanation why he wants you rather to give your same donation that you gave yearly, to give it at least monthly, and best yet to give it weekly. Let's continue. The Koshki Mishali Mini Yisurim. If the Alter Rebbe says, not only the Chazal say tzedakah saves one for death, needless to say from torture, pain, suffering, agony, Yisurim. Hakalim imovis, that are easier than death. Tzedakah also helps with that. Koshkein shetayvlo nugam be'elam hazeh lagdima. So therefore, it is best for us in this physical world to preface, to precede, to rush the giving. Koma de'efshiri shari odem nidin b'chol yoyim. And Alter Rebbe, it's very logical. He says, Chazal say, Avram, a man is judged every day. It means every day that we're judged, and it could be the decision is, you did something wrong, I want you to have a toothache. A week from now, you did something wrong, I want you to have a body ache. It's not once a year, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur. No. That's one idea. And then the Chazal say, Adam nidim b'chol yoyim. So if Adam nidim b'chol yoyim, that means every day you judge. So every day you need to have tzedakah tatzil b'mavos, tzedakah tatzil b'yisurim. Tzedakah should protect you from death, and tzedakah should protect you from agony and suffering and pain. So zrizus de Avram. So the alacrity of Avram, the alacrity that we learn from Avram is helpful to this inyan, to this issue. And this is his first explanation of explaining why he wants us to give the donation the same amount, but monthly and best weekly. Next point. But now says another reason why I want you to do it this way, because we find a great virtuous benefit by giving tzedakah. My plot is gedoylun and flaw, and it's a wondrous beyond any reasoning. Eleho liyos ma'aseh tzedakah nasev apamim rabbis. You got to train yourself to give a lot of times by putting in every week that $1 or that $10, whatever, every week. You train yourself. You get into the habit of giving. Okay? So the first point was what we call zrizus. The second point is you can call it the habit. He says it, right? Don't give it all at once. The amount is the same. So we're emphasizing, Chazal say, the multiplicity, the rov hamaisa. And it's true, when you train yourself and you know every week to give, you know, and I want to say, I think I forget who on one of the last shiurim, a few of the chevra spoke about, you know, this. I think Moshe also mentioned the same mishulachim, whatever, you come to shul and the same people on. From their perspective, that's their issue. But what you do by giving every time, you're training yourself to give. Okay, so if it happens to be the same people, it happens to be the same people. But if you look at what you're accomplishing, is the hakol lefi rov hamaisa. So the Alter Rebbe says that's why I want you to give the same amount, but give it multiple times versus giving it all at once. That's point number 2. Now we're going to get into point number 3. V'hine. Milvad ki Rambam zal bir hatev time of nimukay. The Alter Rebbe says it's based on Rambam. The second point, Moshe, is based on the Pirush HaMashnayos of the Rambam. So the Alter Rebbe says, in addition to the fact that the Rambam explains himself very well, to refine your soul by making a habit of giving, and you get used to it, which refines your soul to be giving, right? The Alter Rebbe says, in addition to the Rambam's explanation, the Alter Rebbe says, I'll show you there's an open verse which instructs us to do it this way. It says the pu'ul of tzedakah is l'chaim for life. The hainu shepuloso v'skuloso. The impact and the segula of tzedakah is laham shechayim el yoinim. It's to draw down supernal life, mechaya chayim, from the living king, Ein Sof Baruch Hu, the infinite God, le'eretz hachayim, to the land of life. He shchinas uzeinu. This is the shchina of our strength. Sholeo Nemor, upon which it says, V'atem mechayas kulam, you shall sustain, enliven everything. V'hi sukkahs David and Nephelis, and this is the sukkah of David that fell all the way down. That means the destruction of Eretz Yisrael and Yerushalayim, the Beis Hamikdash, Adolfer until the earth. Kumayim Razal, Goluli Edoim. We were exiled to Edoim, to Edom. Shechina in the morning, the Shechina is there, etc. Why? Ki b'sarusa de letato, lahachis ruch shvelim. When you accustom yourself to give more and more often, to enliven the spirit of the downtrodden, the less le'megarmo klum, who don't have anything. So what you cause is sarusa de le'ela, you cause a reciprocal effect that Hashem is awakened, ubefrat bisnadev lahachas yeshush eretz achayim, mamish v'dav. And this is true for any poor person. Especially says it's true when your generosity is for the Yidden living in Eretz Yisrael who are poor in the land of life. And the Alter Rebbe says, whoever will think about this will find good, v'tam, v'das, reason and understanding. How it's supported by the words of the Chazal. Quotes the previous idea. of giving in multiple times. The act of charity that is done by doing the same thing over and over, because you draw down this what's called supernal life, to make the right yichud, many times. I just want to finish and I'll explain. This is similar. This is similar. The Alter Rebbe, he says this is similar to what the Rambam writes. His reason for giving multiple times is l'zachich hanefesh. He says to refine the soul. Igeres HaKodesh, as it's known from the Zohar. Look at top of page Kuf Lamed Dalet, next page. The Shechina nikras nefesh. The divine presence is called soul, nefesh. Because the Shechina is our life and nafshenu and our soul. The Ksivin, it says, Ki shochel ha'ofer nafshenu. He spreads the offer nafshenu. In other words, the soul. V'chein omer Azal, Kedei l'tzedakah shemekareves es ha'geula. Tzedakah brings the geula. L'kima me'ofer, to erect it from the dust, from the sand, dust. Ma'at, a little at a time. At ki yovashil, till Mashiach will come. So it seems like, Chevra, that the third reason is associated with Mashiach. That's what I understand from this third reason. Why should you give the same amount multiple times? Is because it brings this yichud every time you do it, which hastens Mashiach. That's what I take out of this long last paragraph. In other words, like this. The Rambam writes, you should give multiple times. It says, he writes the words, l'zachich es hanefesh, to refine your soul. Now, what that means is, if you're in the habit of giving, you become more of a mensch. You're giving away from yourself. You're less selfish, right? That's the simple explanation of the Rambam. The Alter Rebbe takes the same concept, and first he looks at it Kabbalistically. And Kabbalistically speaks about the concept of pulas tzedakah l'chaim, that the idea of tzedakah, the impact of tzedakah, brings chaim, life. What life? The supernal life, and you make a yichud with the life here and all of that. Hello?